recently rebuilt this BCM upper with a Criterion barrel, and it's kind of been down and out of the fight for a while. And while I was kind of rebuilding it, I stripped the paint off of the handguard and stuff like that because I wanted to do a different paint scheme. So this is going to be me doing a little painting video of my rifle, give you guys an idea of maybe how to do an interesting pattern on a gun or something like that. First thing I'm going to do is kind of take off all the accessories like sling, light, optic. In the past, I've kind of painted everything, obviously taping off like the lenses and stuff. I found that I tend to buy and sell optics and mounts and whatnot a lot, and then I have to strip the paint off later to sell them. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is not paint the optic and mount, and this light isn't going to be the light that's going to stay on here anyway, and I'll probably use just some kind of like camo wrap around the optic or something like that because I hate this gold color. Really great optic from Primary Arms, the PLXC, but the gold color is really disgusting looking, so probably just going to wrap that. But the rest of the gun I'm going to paint. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use, so you may have seen my fall camo auto rifle. I use these stencils from Chibi Shi on that to do that kind of like yellow, orange, and brown pattern. I still have some of those stencils left, and I'm going to do kind of a Russian KLMK pattern. So I'm going to do the whole gun in like a flat gray primer, and then I'll put stencils over it in large patches, and then I'll do a green over that, and it'll be kind of a cool KLMK pattern is the idea. So let's take some stuff off the gun and get it ready to paint. All right, now that I kind of have all the accessories off that I don't want to paint, I'm going to wipe the gun down. There's a little bit of oil on a couple of spots just from me lubing this thing up and running it. So you want to get all that oil off the surface so that the paint sticks well, or at least relatively well. Once you have the whole gun wiped down, you're also just going to want to tape off any spots or block off any spots that you don't want to get paint inside. Obviously, close your dust cover. Extend your buttstock all the way so as much of the buffer tube is getting painted as can be, or you can even pull the buttstock off. And then I usually just stuff like a paper towel into the mag well, and then I tape or stuff something into the muzzle device just to block the muzzle so no paint's going down in there. Since I'm not painting the optics and things like that, I don't have to tape off lenses on the optics and little like graduation marks on the turrets or anything like that, which I would normally do if I was going to paint the optic. Also, I generally don't really worry about painting over the muzzle device and it not matching the rest of the gun because I actually shoot my guns. They're not just for display, and usually either gets burned off or covered in carbon. So it doesn't really matter if you paint it or not, in my opinion. If you're doing a gun that's just going to be for like pictures and display, maybe you want to make sure that it gets the camo on there as well, so you could stuff something down in like the inside of the muzzle device to kind of keep shit from going down the bore, but I just taped off the whole fucking thing. All right, gonna start painting the rifle here. Gonna do one side on the cardboard here, and then let it dry, flip it over, do the other side. I'm also going to do a couple of magazines with the pattern. One I'm going to do, actually, I don't have a magazine that goes with my auto rifle with that fall camo pattern, so I'm going to do one of those. But I'm going to hit it with this primer first because that Krylon paint that I used didn't want to stick very well. So hopefully this will help with that. And then I'm going to do one magazine to match with this rifle as well. Additionally, I would like to point out that it actually is easier, instead of like setting the gun on the cardboard, to hang it, like maybe put a piece of string through something on the buttstock and hang it from a tree and paint it, because you can paint all sides and then you're not having to flip it and worry about it sticking to the cardboard or something if it's not quite dried. But if you don't want to be standing around in your yard painting a rifle in full view of your neighbors or something like that, this is another way to do it. One big piece of advice I'll give is spray very lightly. You can always go back and give more coats, but if you spray too heavily right off the bat, your paint's gonna take a long time to dry, and it's going to be kind of sticky, and it's going to want to drip and run. So light coats, multiple passes. All right, pretty self-explanatory, but now that one side is dried enough that we can flip it over and it won't stick to the cardboard, we're going to flip it and do the other side. All right, now that I've got both sides, I'm just going to let this harden up for a few days, and then I'll apply the decals and do the next layer of paint. All right, it's been several days since I let that first base coat dry, so I got this whole thing painted gray. It's nice and dry. It's not going to be sticky or peeling off of the metal surface of the gun or anything like that. So using these excess stencils I have from the auto rifle, I'm going to be doing kind of a KLMK inspired camo pattern where it's going to be gray blobs masked off with this in kind of a digital camo blob pattern, and then green over the top of it. I'm just going to do like a, what is it? Rust-Oleum flat deep forest green. I use that on a lot of guns because I live in a coniferous forested area, and it works really well. So maybe it's slightly darker than the actual light KLMK camo, but it'll work well for where I live. Additionally, I'm going to do one magazine in this pattern as well. I'm currently also painting a magazine to match my auto rifle because I was an idiot and didn't do that the first time. So I'm going to be working on that as well. But that is currently has a base coat on it that's drying. So these stencils are pretty simple. You just kind of cut them to whatever size and shape you want. You peel off the backer first, like so. And then you're going to stick them on the rifle, try and get them into the crevices as much as you can, and then peel off like the front part of the sticker, this kind of clear grid looking stuff. This rifle is going to be a little bit easier than my auto rifle because my auto rifle had a full quad rail, and getting it to stick to all the like Picatinny rail can be a little bit difficult. This one should be a little easier with this Keymod hand guard, and just like the rest of the rifle's fairly flat, so that's not that big of a deal. All right, now let's hit the exterior of this thing with the green and let it dry. All right, pretty simple. Now that we have the second layer of paint on there, that's all I'm doing for this specific paint job, so we can remove kind of all the little stuff blocking the paint from getting in the crevices, and we can start removing the stencils. Peel the stencils off carefully. Hopefully that's self-explanatory, but you can peel some paint up if you're not careful. If a little bit comes up, not a big deal. You know, you're spray painting your gun. It's not going to be perfect anyway. But yeah, and just make sure you kind of go over the entire gun and get all the little tiny bits of stencil off, because definitely when I did my Red Right Hand LMG-L, I was still finding little bits that I missed and had been painted over. That one was a little more difficult because it was 3 different layers of paint, 3 different colors. But yeah, it took me a little while to find every little piece on there. So definitely get all the main stuff off, and then I would say go over it inch by inch and make sure you get off every little tiny bit of decal on there, and then your paint job should look pretty sick.